Okay, what's going on, everybody? If you are here, let me know by hopping in the chat. And we're going to hang out and talk about a few things. I'm going to figure out how do I do this? It's been a bit. Don't really remember how to do things, but you know what I do know? I do know this. You guys can't smell it. Oh, Rockstar. It's so good. All right. We're going to talk about the Christianity Today article that everyone has already talked about. And it's long past due. But I also have thoughts. If you don't know what we're talking about, there's an article that came out just a couple days before Easter. And it is literally the worst. And everybody jumped on this thing online. And there's a part of me. There's always a part of me. You know, maybe this is my bias. Okay, but there's always a little part of me that when everyone is saying something, I want to go the other way. Like there's just something in me, the little rebel, that I got to quiet down sometimes and say, hey, you don't need to rebel this time, But there's a part of me that's just like, they got to be wrong. It can't be that bad. And then I read the article. And it's pretty bad. So this is what I'm talking about, although you can't see me because I've changed everything. And that's apparently that was the wrong one. This one? Can this one work? Not really. Let me try some things. I could do this. This looks okay. It's not what I intended, but that's all right. Like we're missing some things here. Let's go here. I'm so sorry. I just, I don't really stream that much anymore. And so it's just like, I don't know how. Some might even wonder if I ever knew how. And those people are kind of mean, but you know what? They do have a little bit of a point. But sure. Let's go like that. That's fine, right? We'll go a little bit more like this. Okay. So this is the Christianity article, the Christianity Today article. Was Jesus crucified with nails? So there was lots of people who were asking this question. That's wrong. There weren't anyone. No one was asking this question except for the writer. And, all right, I'm just going to start getting into it. I don't want to go all the way through this article, but essentially he calls into question everything with the crucifixion. And basically, we weren't there, so how do we know? And specifically, he focuses in on this idea of the nails. But that also, the methodology that he uses to get to that point in like, was Jesus actually crucified with nails or was he strapped with ropes? Which you might be going like, what's the big deal about that? The Bible talks about nails. So if we don't have nails, then the Bible is wrong. And it's very specific about nails and even like piercing. Like there's so much language about like specific types of pain that Jesus went through and prophecies about that, like the inflicted servant in Isaiah. That's not the right term, but something about servant, afflicted, the afflicted servant. I don't know. But he was supposed to be in that kind of pain. And this writer is just like, but do we really know? Now, there is a part that goes like, there's a part of me that goes, maybe it's good to question some things. Odd timing. And the timing makes me like really skeptical of Christianity Today for what they did with this article. Like I have been the guy for the last like 2 years trying to be like, all right, these guys who are over on the far right, who are like going at Christianity Today and TGC and everything for the wrong reasons. I think that they just have an axe to grind and they just want these establishments to go away because maybe there might be even some accountability from, some of the writers, some of the influencers in that world. And they just want those kind of gatekeepers to go away. And so they've been at this war, suffering servant. Thank you, Leonard. I got flustered with the templates. Is that the word? Overlays. All right. I need to wake up a little bit. And so does Christianity today. They need to wake up a little bit because they already know that they have people who hate them, right? Like we know that. Everything, the rise and fall of Mars Hill, that kind of put, them on a target, put a target on them, and now they're just putting out stuff. And you would think that they would be a little bit smarter than on Easter to attack Easter. And make no mistake about it. If you read this article, that's what it is. Like, again, I read it thinking like, all right, these guys, they're out to lunch and they have an axe to grind. So I'm going to read it and it's probably not going to be that bad. Maybe he just like leaves like a little question to it. No, he calls into question like pretty much everything about the crucifixion because we need to observe. We need to be able to observe these things. And because we have rope several times, it's not even a lot, but we have rope several times in history for crucifixions, then that means we need to call into question scripture, which like there is something to validating what we see in scripture with history, with proof, right? Like you don't want to just say, well, the Bible is true because the Bible is true, right? That circular kind of thinking doesn't get you anywhere. It's not logical. You got to be able to say the Bible is true because here's the evidence. Here's the evidence for why it's true. Now, faith will say, I believe the Bible is true because I believe it. That's good. But when we're talking about like the apologetic world, defense of the faith, trying to convince people, you need evidence. You need evidence for that faith. Evidence that demands a verdict, right? Grifting. But that's kind of what I think Christianity today was doing. In an odd way. All right. It's Easter time. And they wrote an article going at one of the core ideas of Easter and calling that into question. Now, the line of thinking could go, well, then maybe next year we call into question, the resurrection of the dead, right? We only have Josephus kind of talking about it, and he just kind of says it in a throwaway line. We got the Bible, obviously, and eyewitnesses, and people just around that time assumed it to be true. But the only one historically that actually like spoke to it was Josephus, and Josephus was just like, and Jesus, who rose again from the dead. Moving on, like he's what? You're not going to expound on that a little bit, but he rose from the dead, and it's cool. It's cool beans. Moving on, and let's talk about Rome a little bit more. But yeah, so like, what's to stop them from going further, right? Like this shows that there's no real filter at Christianity today, which is Russell Moore's job as the editor-in-chief. And again, I've defended the guy a bunch of different times for different reasons, but this is a huge L. And they knew it, but they tried to make money off of it. Remember, these are not organizations that just exist for the betterment of Christianity, out of the goodness of their hearts. People are getting paid. They want to get clicks on their articles. They put articles out at different times, like pull back the curtain, right? Like anyone who does anything with social media knows that you don't tweet about something unless that, bigger thing is right around the corner, or you don't make that specific kind of video unless like that thing's coming out, right? Or even names, right? The Minecraft movie is out. If you have a video about Jack Black, most likely that will go a little further down the line. Also, yes, I do have a 12-inch figure of Jack Black in a sweater. Do I love Minecraft? No, but it's Jack Black in a sweater. And I mean, like, look at his face. Look at that face. It's Jack Black. It's not even like a question. It's not just like, oh, that's a white guy with a beard. And it's like, no, that looks like Jack Black. It's actually pretty good. So, maybe make a video about it right now. And then like you could get a lot of clicks. And that's what they did. Easter was right there. And so they thought this was how we're going to get our clicks. This is how we're going to make the money. And that to me is really concerning about there being no filter, like no one to weed these things out and be like, that's a bad article. Like, and at Easter time, like there's no one pushing back on that. Or at least it doesn't seem like it. And then just even the motivations that you would have to have of being like, oh, it's Easter. I'm questioning a huge aspect of it in this article that I, basically just looked at. This is also a big problem, but I looked at one guy who says one thing, that it might be ropes, and not even that he thinks it's ropes, that it might be ropes. And I think the quote is like that he wanted to look into it a little bit more. Like where is this? Oh, I'm realizing this isn't screen share. Come on, Ecamm. I know I don't have to get my act together, but you can. What did he say? He said something about how this needs to be explored more. Yeah, at the very end. Garcia told Christianity Today he wanted to, quote, explore the issue because it's good to question tradition and people can benefit from closer scrutiny of history. Okay, like, again, I'm not saying you have to like look at something in the Bible and you just have to believe it because the Bible says it. Like, it's good to believe the Bible, but it's also good to look at evidence and be able to see like, all right, I can see why the Bible is true. Like, to me, I believe that the Word of God is infallible and is without error. So for me, if you look at the evidence, it's only going to prove the Bible true. But for him, he's like, I'm going to look at it through the lens of history. So it's really about like what you value more. And if you value history, you're going to be able to find some dude who thinks something, right? There's always some guy out there. Maybe he's going for like everyone thinks like hot takes are just for like social media. There have always been hot takes. Look at like the 40s and the way they put their headlines. All right. In newspapers, some of those are really, really hot takes. And that's what basically this guy is doing. He's going for a hot take because he found one guy who also had this hot take and no one else is saying it, but he's going like, I'm going to take that one guy, which to me says there's more going on. Now, it's important when someone apologizes to make sure that you say that they apologize. So this guy, Daniel Silman, he apologized. I'm sure this was told for him to write. Like maybe he did want to write it, but also he was told because everyone and their mom freaked out about this thing, and rightfully so. So here's what he says. Like so many Christians, I spent a lot of time before Easter thinking about the crucifixion. Yeah, we know. How it must have felt for Jesus to die that way. How God chose that particular device of Roman terror to accomplish our salvation, and how it worked practically to kill someone on a cross. I don't know. I mean, I think about it, but I don't think about it that hard. That was a weird way to put it. All right. But an article in Biblical Archaeology Review piqued my reporting curiosity. A Bible professor suggested it was possible that the crucifixions at the time of Christ's death used ropes rather than nails. Again, you will find a Bible professor anywhere saying anything because there are a lot of weirdo Bible professors. All right. That's why we go with the majority of scholars, like 9 out of 10 dentists recommend, whichever one. And everybody says it is them, but why do we want the 1 out of 10 who's just like, yeah, it's made of cotton candy. Actually everybody else is wrong. It's sugar is great for your teeth. Like, no, we don't care about what that one guy is ranting about in a corner. We want the 9 out of 10. That's what we should do with pretty much anything, is that we actually trust scholars. We trust people who are supposed to be experts and maybe go with the expert opinion. But he found one guy who said one crazy thing that had really no bearing in history. If you read the article, he's really stretching. And he's like, well, it doesn't specifically say. And like, it's no, like we know it. We know it. It's okay. Like the nails is fine. We don't have to mess with this. Also, you're not helping anyone. Like, so it's about clicks. It's about like not having a filter, but also what was the point? Like, what were readers of Christianity today? Let's say that it wasn't even like something that was calling into question the validity of Scripture, which it was. But like, what was the point of Christianity Today readers to see that article? What were they supposed to think? Like, that's interesting. Maybe the Bible isn't true at all. Like, because that one guy says that thing. No, like that's not how you edify. That's not how you build up. That's not how you build a ministry that's supposed to be helpful for thousands of Christians. And again, I just view like the SEO of it, of just like, my mind often goes to marketing. You guys probably know that. But it's just like you wrote this article to go out at Easter. It wasn't like you were just like, oh, I randomly ran into this and it piqued my curiosity and it was 4 days before and I wrote this article. You've been working on this article. You've been saving it for Easter because you knew it was going to get clicks around Easter because everyone's searching for Easter stuff. And now you got something there and in the Google machine for you to get the clicks from. And maybe, Russell Moore will pat you on the head. And he probably did. But it's just, it's not good. Like the motivations for me, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense, like with history, with theology, especially. Like he's forgetting like huge parts of Scripture. Like I think he updated it and added some Scripture. Obviously a lot of people were like, what about doubting Thomas? Like he says, I'm going to, put my fingers in the holes. And it's like, well, we don't know where those holes came from. Rope holes. Everybody knows about rope holes. Come on. It just wasn't thought through. And to me, it makes me go like, you know what? I'm done defending Christianity today. Maybe some things do need to just sail away. I'm sure that there's still good stuff. One article doesn't mean everyone is bad. It doesn't mean Russell Moore is the worst person ever. But it does make me go like, why didn't you stop this thing? The guy who was the dean of theology at Southern Baptist Theological Seminary should know his theology well enough to look at this and go like, this can't fly. And so either it's like for Russell Moore, it's either he's really bad as a theologian or he's really bad as an editor. And both those things, like you shouldn't be the one calling the shots for that. To me, if I was on the board for Christianity Today, this is fireable to me. Like this is you for clicks, for the SEO traffic. Like this is you attacking a main aspect of Easter, around Easter. It's like the main thing for Christians. So I just go like, what are you even trying to accomplish? No, we're not. No, we don't need to be party to this. Not for the wokeness, not for, like whatever with back in the day with Black Lives Matter. I don't care about that stuff. Like theology matters. And if you can't get theology right and you can't put out articles that, like for real, this is, again, just like a very core concept of Christianity, you can't be trusted to like do other things. So for me, this was a huge, huge mistake from Christianity Today. I'm glad that they put out this article and apologized. I don't think it went far enough, to be honest. Like if you look again at the apology here, my curiosity took me to descriptions of Christ's death and the details in those accounts. I don't think about John 20:25. I didn't think about John 20:25 and the implications of the idea that Thomas was mistaken to think the resurrected Jesus would have nail marks in his hands. Yeah, you clearly didn't think about that one. My article implicitly called into question the inerrancy of Scripture. In my eagerness to explore the historical context of Christ's death, I missed that. I'm sorry. It's a big thing to miss. And to me, you're smart. Like, if you, I think that's disingenuous. Like, I just, like, I'm not calling anyone a liar. But I'm just saying, like, I don't fully buy that. Like, how can you not see that you're calling into question the inerrancy of Scripture? Like, it's a pretty big deal. It's a pretty big deal, about the biggest deal that we have with Christianity around the biggest time that we have as Christians. Like it's foolishness. So for me, that was not great. But I'd be interested to hear what you guys think. I'm sure that there might be some people who are like, actually, like, I think it's good to call into question like traditional things and stuff like that. I'm moving some things around. Sorry. So I can get back to that one in a bit. But let's see what you guys are thinking. Let's go up. Let's go up. Let's go up. We'll start here. We actually have archaeological finds of crucifixion with nails. Says the 9 out of 10. I want to know what that other guy in the corner thinks. No. What is it? I don't want to click on that. I want to click on this. I think you don't have to go down the slippery slope, but it's still a problem. Yeah, I view it as a really big problem. What's up, David? Hey, family. Love y'all to life. Physical therapy kicked my butt today, but I'm grateful for slow, healthy progress. I'm sorry that you're still going through that. I know it'll be a long road to recovery for you. Man. Guys, don't break your thigh. Like, your thigh is like, it's a big deal. Guys, pray for David. That sounds like it would be rough. Question tradition. I mean, sane people don't question the tradition of 1 + 1 = 2. Says you, that guy over there who says cotton candy is good for your teeth. He says, yeah. 64. I believe the answer is 64. It's also nice when people can think critically, a skill that is quickly becoming extinct. Correct. Let's see. Also, the Gospels are history, right? There was also a part where he talks about the Gospel of John being, written so much later than the other Gospels. And while there is truth to that, it's not much later. And if you take that interpretation, that kind of tells me what you actually think about Scripture. Like that's one of those like tells when you're telling on yourself. If you think like the Gospel of John was written like 20 to 30 years later than the other Gospels, and it like, because that's the one that really talks about Jesus's divinity in very clear, definite terms. And so that's the one that a lot of liberals, like the actual liberals, will attack and be like, not that gospel. We like the other ones. We think the miracles are false, but we like the other gospels because they're all nice. Jesus is super nice, and we could be nice people like Jesus. But we don't like John because he says he's God there. So that's the one that Christians wrote 30 years later, and they did it just to, once they actually found out their beliefs, they wrote this thing to then be like this self-fulfilling circle of, oh, there's our reason for it. It's not true. They're written pretty close. Dr. Mountain Dew recommends sugar as a regular part of your diet, right? It's actually, carbs are great for you. Carbs are super good. Take it from the guy drinking some. Was that gross? Probably. Hey, Dean. Hey, underdogs. Greetings and salutations. Well, greetings and salutations to you, sir. And also to you. Jesus just had a sick piercing in his hands. Yeah. He just had a hole there. He was born with it, maybe? I don't know. No, we know how he got it. I wonder if this is just a case of getting bored, finding something different and getting excited for something and not checking editing yourself enough. That's a fair point. Yeah, I think people do that. Like they just go like, I want to write something that's different. Oh, there's this guy who, said something. But when you're writing for this many people, like I think it's important to be like, this is just my opinion. And this is pretty out there. So just stick with me, like give some of those caveats so people know that you're like just exploring something. And I don't think he did enough of that. And I honestly don't think that was his like idea. I think he was trying to be different, but I think it's like the timing of it just makes me go like, that's not something he just got excited about. This is something he was like trying to do. Easter subjects are all so many times covered, and here's something new. That might be true. Like maybe he was tasked with writing, you have to come up with an Easter themed article. That's probably accurate. And then he came up with this thing. That might be true. Yeah, I can see that. As an aside, took the kids to see Minecraft, and I thought it was hilarious and thoroughly enjoyed myself. I mean, like, I liked it. I thought it was funny. You get Jared Hess directing Jack Black. I'm going to like it. Like, I can't help it. Is it like the best story ever? No, there's no story. But you don't need that if you got Jack Black and Jason Momoa just having fun. And they had a lot of fun on screen. And so I enjoyed it. Is it my favorite movie of 2025? No. Maybe. No, just kidding. I haven't read the article. I did read his apology on Twitter. I wouldn't cancel him in CT just yet. Well, joke's on you. I already did. And we already know that what I say is final. And so the cancellation is final. There's no take backsies. Final strike for Russell Moore. I mean, come on. Yeah. I mean, like, if you didn't like Russell Moore, this is just, like the cherry on the sundae. It's a really bad Sunday. But like that, you're just like, he's done. But for me, someone who has enjoyed Russell Moore in the past, definitely I've had some issues with some of the things. All of a sudden acting like you're an outsider of the SBC when you were like one of the decision makers within the SBC was a little like, okay. But, like those kinds of things bring up questions in my mind. But this is just like, you're just bad at your job. Like it's just, you made a really bad mistake, and it's a very public one. And to me, it's fireable, but probably won't happen because no one gets fired who has that many followers on Twitter. Right? Like, that's really what it's about. You'd be better off writing an article over the merits of singing Christ the Lord is risen today on Sunday rather than yeah. That probably would have. That would have gotten some clicks. They're very deliberate in which articles they publish. Too many layers of review at CT to write this off as a simple mistake. Yeah. And I get it. Like, I don't know the Silman guy. I don't know how often he writes for Christianity Today, whether he's one of the main writers. I didn't do like a deep dive into him. But sometimes there are writers that, are such good editors of themselves that because you're trying to push out more stuff, that and editors have they have a lot to do, that maybe there's some that they're just like, okay, if it's Silman, we just put it out. The other guys, they have to go through this process. So maybe it's like that. I don't know. Christianity Today is looking to appear open-minded to garner more readers. It seems to be the more established Orthodox platforms are doing their open-minded grift to attract attention. Very interesting point. Seems. I think that's true. I think that's true. That's my opinion. I can't say that that's like 100% the truth, but that's what I believe. I think they put out this article thinking that they could get some of these like people who don't usually get represented within the more mainstream evangelical world. And I think they see that as a growing market for them, where they can write more and more for the liberals. The problem with that is that there aren't very many. like we know, right? Like we know there are people who, at least on this channel, would be more in line with what I'm saying. Left leaning, as far as let's say you read TGC, and maybe you're a little bit more left leaning than TGC. And then like just a little bit further is like a huge cliff down to liberalism, like just straight up classic liberalism. There's not that much room in between. And like on the right, there seems to be more room. So you would think, just as like marketing, that maybe you would try to like just center yourself a little bit better, like of who can read this thing and be benefited by it. And that's historically what Christianity Today has been. It's just in the last few years that they've really gone and tried to make themselves more appealing to more liberal Christians. But that is a very small market. So I don't know exactly what their plan is. Perhaps the people that know him well know that he affirms the inerrancy of Scripture, and that clouded their judgment and reading of his writing. I mean, there might be a lot of different scenarios. Again, we don't know the guy, but we can only know what he published. And the publishing is pretty clear. So people who would read that publishing I mean, you got to think about how people will take something, right? Like as an editor, you gotta think about your audience. You're not just editing, like looking for spelling errors and things like that. You're also trying to think, how is the reader going to interpret this? And it would be pretty difficult to miss some of these things, at least on accident or because you know the guy, in my opinion. Christian culture, especially in the US, is increasingly taking this shoot first, ask questions later attitude, where they are seeing what crazy things they can say, right, and get away with. Yeah, um, I think that's part of just online world stuff. Like people are just saying crazy stuff. And like, that again, not to just harp on this candy, what is it? Not candy cane, cotton candy guy, but the cotton candy toothpaste guy. He's got a Twitter account. Like he's not just in the corner just mumbling to himself. Now everybody has this social media stuff and they can get whatever they want out there, and the craziest thing wins the day. Like, so I think that's part of it. Hey Dean, what's the vibes on the Canadian election? I have no idea. I don't know how it's going to go. I had thought something, but then like everyone I talked to, it seemed something else. So I don't know. It's hard to gauge. I think it'll be very close. Aiden, have you seen Gary Manning's response article on this? He is a Greek scholar and displayed that Greek text as early as 400 BC speak of railing in this way. No, I have not. I have not read that. I do think doubts and questions are good and should be welcome. Again, I haven't read the article. I've never met anyone who questioned the case for Christ being nailed to a cross, because you haven't met that guy. Again, it's just the one guy. I've heard people question if they put the nails in Jesus's palms or his wrists, but never if there was actually nails. Yeah, and that's fair, because like that is something historically you could look at and see different scenarios. Like there are time periods where they thought, oh, we'll do it this way because we want the pain to last longer, and so we'll just put it here. And then they're like, no, we want it to be quick, so we could just get it done with. So we'll put the nails here. So, yeah, I've heard that debate a bunch of different times, and there's validity to both sides of that, but not to the rope thing. Hey, what's up, Bill? Hope you're doing well. Let's see. It's the sprinkles on the cakes that aren't edible. I get it. Our vocab word for today: patibulum. Patibulum. Skeletal remains. What's up? Howdy, folks. Missed y'all. We missed you, skeleton. Skeletal remains. We missed the remains. All right. There's one more thing I wanted to show you guys, but first, let me just see something here. 7-8. Okay, we got a couple minutes. I can't spend a ton of time today, but I did want to get in a stream, and I wanted to talk about some of these things. There's one thing. We're going to spend some time on this one, okay? All right, let me find the thing again. We'll go, is it this one? Is it here? This is the wrong one. That's the wrong one. Why'd I put it back down there? Now I got to find that thing again. Where are you? I don't think it's this. No, it's not. It's not that one. We messed it up. We messed it all up. Oh no. Oh no. Where'd it go? Is it this one? It is. Okay. All right. I'll get better with this. I promise. We'll do some more streams and maybe I'll get good again. I never did. All right. This is Carey Nieuwhof. If you don't know who he is a church strategist. He's written tons of stuff about megachurch leadership and was like in kind of the Acts 29 world. He is Canadian, but he has a huge following in the United States among like just that like really bland megachurch kind of thing where he basically it's just about like how do we grow this church, and he's written tons of different stuff about it. I really don't like this guy. I really don't. I think he is one of the most dangerous dudes in Christianity, because it's all about numbers. It's all about business strategies, and honestly, he asks a lot of people to sign up for a lot of things, and it's just like my plan. I'll teach you. I'll teach you. I'll teach you. It's think media for churches. That's what it is. If you're familiar with like YouTube stuff, how to be a YouTuber, think media has like their whole thing, and it's basically that. And then I saw this, because I've seen this. I've been around church planters a lot, and I've seen a lot of frustration from church planters who look at some of these guys who have churches that, there's 20 people meeting in a huge building, and they just go like, why do they even try to continue? We've got something here. We're growing here. That church is dead. And so they should just give us their building. Why aren't these churches giving us their buildings? And they're so frustrated about all this stuff. And here's what he has said to these people.
Issues make more angry or upset than the steady resistance dying churches have to funding and fueling the next generation of church leaders. So it happened again recently. I was talking to a young church leader whose church plant is literally busting at the seams. They've gone to 4 services trying to accommodate a sea of young adults. And honestly, I've seen it for myself. The current church building does not fit them. The parking situation is terrible. They are desperate for a new facility, but they can't seem to open up enough space. To make it all even more interesting, they're not even 2 years old yet. The opportunity is this. They're surrounded by dozens of existing churches that have been there for years, decades, centuries, with huge buildings, excellent parking, even acreage. And guess what? A lot of these churches have no people. And that's the challenge for this generation. New churches with people usually have almost no money and no building, and dying churches with money and buildings often have almost no people. So stated that way, the swap seems pretty obvious. Shouldn't the churches with almost no people flip the keys to their building to the churches with people? And shouldn't the rich churches share with the poor churches? What I want to ask in this video is, why isn't this happening more? And I want to share 5 likely reasons why.
All right, so you get it. You get the vibe, right? It's dying churches are dying because there's only a few people there. So that means that they're dying. And these churches that are growing numerically means that they are healthy churches. So they're living. Those churches, usually with the older people, and there's 30 older people, but it's a huge building. And this church of 200 young people are thriving because of the numbers, and so that they should be given the building from the older people. I have so many thoughts about this. One, the narcissism at display, that these churches deserve that because they've been around for 2 years and they've grown. So they deserve the people who have worked for 70 years at this church. These families that have been through it and been through the ups and downs of ministry, and like they've grown things, they've done fundraising, they've done so much hard work to get this building and maintain it for 70 years, that because they've had 2 good years, they deserve the building. So give them the building. Why are you holding on to it, 30 old people? Like, one, here's something he just doesn't even talk about in this video. Theology. Can you agree theologically? Are you in the same world theologically? Now, you don't have to be able to, give your building to someone else, but where are these old people supposed to go, right? Like, and I'm just saying old because generally that's how it works. You generally don't have a church of like a whole bunch of 30-year-olds, right? Like, because they have kids, grow up and become members, like that's part of how some churches grow. But usually it's older people and you're just expecting them to give it to the younger people. But it's just, where are they supposed to go? Can they go to this church? Can they even go to this church? Maybe this is a Presbyterian church and you got a bunch of like middle of the road SBC type Baptists. Well, these Presbyterians aren't going to feel like they can actually go there because their theology is so different. But here comes Carey Nieuwhof just to say, give them the stuff. Stop being so like holding on to your treasures and being so stingy about it. Just give it to them. No. Like, you should actually agree with those people theologically before you're like, I'm going to entrust everything that we built over all of these years to you and to your church. Like, one, can I see your books? Because if you are so healthy and you're growing so much, why aren't you able to have a building? Like, what's going on there? Now, sometimes it's just because you haven't been around long enough. I know plenty of church planters that have spent years and years trying to get a building, trying to raise up capital. And sometimes it's very difficult. But someone who's gifting that might want to like be like, all right, let's look and see. So let's hear what Carey, the strategist, has to say, so that we can all learn from his wisdom.
First reason, the dying church isn't thinking missionally. Now, look, it's easy for church leaders and members to forget the mission of the church. I mean, I get it. If you think about it, even for those of you who are part of church plants that have been around for a few years, I think once a church has existed, even for, let's say, 5 years, the methods can easily become more important than the mission. Now, if your church has been stuck or declining for years, it's almost certain that the congregation...
That might be like one of like the, bro, that's what you're doing. Like, why do you need a building? Like, isn't that methodology? Like, oh, it's more important. Maybe stop focusing on the building so much and just like do the ministry. But no, this isn't about their methodology. It's the old people.
And its leaders value the methods over the mission. What do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is you like the way you do music. You like your style of preaching. You like the time of the services, whatever it happens to be, but the methods have become more important than the mission. Churches enter kind of a death rattle at this stage that's nearly impossible to escape without a full-fledged change in leadership. But a lot of churches don't do that change in leadership. So what is the best way to get out of that death spiral?
I haven't looked at the numbers, but I actually really doubt that. Like, just what he's talking about, how there's like this death rattle, whatever. Okay. Weird way to put it. But like, all right, your numbers start going down and the only way to change that is through new leadership. I really doubt that like that's the only way to change that. And a lot of these churches do get new leadership, and even churches that continue to dwindle. Like, what he's doing, again, it's all leadership business principles where he's like putting it all on the leader, the visionary. It's up to them to grow the church, and they have to have the vision to be able to get these buildings. And these old people who are the decision makers, who, like later he'll talk about, it's because the pastors basically don't want to retire, which is what in the world. I never known an older pastor. Like, there are tons of pastors who don't want to retire, but that's not the reason for them not wanting to give up their building. But he's going to go there because he had to come up with 5 reasons for his SEO stuff. But like, the leader doesn't have like that kind of power. And if he does, there's something wrong. But again, he's coming from like this megachurch world where all the visionaries have the power and they get to tell everyone what to do. And if they don't, they get run over by the bus, which again, I will just point out, like I do every time I talk about this guy, this is the dude who platformed Mark Driscoll first before anyone else did when he came back, who did not care about the stuff that happened at Mars Hill, who threw some softball questions about Mars Hill and then directly moved on so he can start, getting to how Mark could help him grow his platform. This is that guy. Okay. So just saying, let's go a little bit further down here.
Need to do, you've got to change the methods. And if you want to kill the mission, do what you've always done. And here's what's going to happen. You're going to get ever diminishing returns. I know that's harsh, but it's also...
It's just so not true. um, Guys, if you preach the gospel, that's great. And like, sure, there might be other strategies to try and get out there in the community and get that gospel out there. But if you keep on, if the only thing you've ever done is preach the gospel, that's great. Or that's good. You don't have to change things. You don't have to try whatever new strategy he's written about. So if you pay him, $60 a month, he could personally train you in order to do those things. That's what all these guys do. You don't need that. You could just preach the gospel and let that soak into your people's hearts, and they and you will continue to do ministry together. And that's a great way to do ministry. But for him, he's all about, what can you check off a list? If you can check off this list of actions to do, then, if you have a soccer camp, if you have a specific level of quality in your vacation Bible school, if you have, this program, that program, all these different programs, that's how you can grow. It's all fads. He's changed everybody. I've watched this guy change over the years of it's all small groups. And now we don't do small groups, now it's this, and it's always going to be something different because it's always a fad. But here he is once again. If you're just doing the same thing, you're going to get diminishing returns. If those diminishing returns are, another person, maybe less people than last year, but it's still another person coming to saving faith in Jesus Christ, I would say that's a pretty good year. We can't be in charge of the success numerically. That's something God has to do. You can't change the hearts of people. What you can do is give that message of the good gospel of Jesus Christ. And if you do that, that's a win. That's a win. And it doesn't matter if your building is full or not full. That's not to say you can't be wise about how you use your building, and maybe you could help people. But this idea that, your church is, dwindling in numbers, so you just have to, you gotta pull the plug. You gotta pull the plug on the church and just give it to these other people because they've been faithful for 2 years. And guys, if you're faithful for 2 years, that's such a long time. It is if you live on the internet, but that's nowhere. Yeah, people don't know who you are. Like, they don't know you. They know First Baptist down the street. They've been there for 80 years preaching the gospel faithfully. Sure, they have a very small church, but everybody knows them. They don't know what renewal church is. Revolution Church, some other name with an R, Redemption Church. They don't know what that church is, but they do know that, Fourth Avenue Presbyterian Church has been at it for a long time. And if they need help, they can go there. Or if they have any questions about the Bible, they could go there. They do know that.
True. Second reason, the dying church values dollars over disciples. So often when faced with a few dozen people left in an oversized building and a pretty full bank account, here's what dying churches do. They start thinking about the dollars that they're going to make when they sell their building. In other words, we could sell this to a developer and maybe we could get $8 million. Well, first of all, what are you going to do with that? It's not a private company. Okay, you can't just put it in your own bank account. And developers love old churches because you've seen this all across the landscape, right? You can turn them into condos, pubs, coffee shops, restaurants with a super cool vibe. I've eaten in some of those places. And you know what? I always think, why couldn't have this still been a church? So yeah, you can't pocket the cash, but boards sometimes start thinking, well, we could give all this money to mission, right? We could support some missionaries and Bible translation or whatever. And that is awesome. But what you need to remember in this moment is the mission field has also moved home. There's somebody in your neighborhood who actually has a growing church, and there are hundreds of thousands or millions of people to reach within an hour of your church. And you're probably...
And no one's stopping them. Like, he's acting like you have to have a building in order to faithfully be on mission. No, that's not true. There are so many churches, and churches that I personally know, that have been at schools for 30 years. Like, they've been faithfully serving the community, reaching the mission field of wherever they're at for 30 years in a public school, setting up every weekend, tearing down every weekend. It's okay to do that. It's okay to rent from another church, to use their, smaller sanctuary so that you guys can meet while they're, meeting in the big one, or, at night, doing church at night, so that you could use that building. That's fine. That's not going to stop you from making disciples. And also, again, this guy just doesn't know theology. He just doesn't. He has proven that over the years. He is all about business strategy. He doesn't care about theology because, again, he's saying like, well, you want to give it to missions. Yeah, missions that align with you theologically. The people that maybe even you have sent out. Wouldn't it be great to gift, like you have the Taylor family, and the Taylors have been serving in Spain for the last 16 years, and they used to be part of this church, or maybe we just we're partnered with them for a very long time, and we just want to bless the Taylor family, and they've been struggling, finding a building there in Spain, and so we want to give them the money. We want to sell the church for $8 million, and we want to give them $1.3 million to buy their own building, or to get set up at a strip mall somewhere in Spain. I don't know. Do they have strip malls? I don't know. And then we want to split up the money elsewhere. That is their business as a church. And it is so judgmental, so narcissistic to look at these churches and go, oh, you're not using that money right because you're not giving it to the young people who just got onto the scene. The Taylors have been in Spain for 12 years or whatever I said. 12 years serving faithfully, but they've been over here for a year and a half, and they've grown their people to 150. All right, in a year and a half, which is impressive. All right, and God might be doing something there. That's cool, but that doesn't mean that you have to be like, I'm sorry, Taylors, we're not going to, because the mission field is here. Carey told us, and so these people who just got here 6 months ago, we're going to give them the building, and so we're not going. It's that church's decision to make. Don't step in here with your judgmentalism of establishment and tradition and dictating what these churches have to do. And then going as far as to say, you actually just care about money. Yeah, you're the guy who's arguing for people just to give you all the money. Well, that's pretty convenient for you. It's pretty convenient for your base of people who are these church planters. And I know them. And I know that there are people that love this guy. I know church planters who are all about the strategies of this guy. And they'll just eat it up, right? Because it's that's the clientele. He's saying that we should be given stuff. That sounds great to me. It's very convenient for them. But what about these other people and what they want to do with the money that they have raised? It's there. It's the Lord's money. We all know that. But they're the stewards of that money. Shouldn't they be able to decide what they believe the Lord is calling them to do with that money? And whether that's to continue to serve with 25 people meeting in a building that's made for 350, whether that's the case, or they want to sell it and give it to missions, maybe gift it to another younger church, that's fine. It's their decision. But here comes Carey to say, if you don't, well, you're just really focused on dollars over disciples. And all of these points lead into each other. It's not like he's saying, here's one reason, here's one reason, here's one reason. They're all just basically saying the same stuff.
Right? Dying churches are often dying because they're very attached to the way they do things. I remember when I started at some dying churches when I was finishing up seminary, they said, well, we love the way we do church. And I'm like, look around, guys. There's 6 of us, okay? 6 people who like it the way it is. There's tens of thousands who don't. We gotta take this seriously. And sometimes, they did it. They took that challenge and they changed their ways. And I'm so grateful. That church would go on to become Connexus Church. We're still part of that church today. It's amazing. But
that story was weird. The way he told that story, that seemed like a pivot to me. to talk about something else rather than trying to trash on people that he worked for. But okay.
More dying churches generally just say, nah, I really like the way we do things. So when a next gen church shows up, and maybe someone from that dying church shows up and they go to the next gen church, what do they notice? They notice lights. They notice music they don't like. They notice a casual dress code. Maybe somebody's got a tattoo. Maybe they don't like the hairstyles. And they notice a totally different approach. And it's easy for the dying church members to develop a critical spirit. Now, what I try to remind myself,
but not for the guys who are saying, give us your building or else you're not really about making disciples. No judgmentalism there.
Especially every year as I get older, is it's very easy to criticize what you don't understand. And you kind of have a choice, right? Rather than be a critic, you can say, I'm just going to criticize all these people, and the 8 of us who like it this way, we're going to go to our grave protesting. Or you can be a student. Rather than fight it, what if you decided to fund it and to fuel it? So there are some real style differences. I totally get it.
He got like 4 blog posts out of that.
Sometimes it's not about dollars. You know what it is? The lead pastor is sitting there going, I need to work a few more years. I can't hand it over to these guys because I need the job. And sometimes that lead pastor is well into his or her 60s or 70s. But, and I feel some compassion for that, okay? A lot of pastors.
All right, he goes on to talk about how pastors should, be able to have retirement money set aside. And maybe if they give the money to, or they give the building to another church, maybe they could set aside and kind of like do this thing where he's kind of on staff at the church, kind of not. And that, like, okay, some of that stuff is wise. But just this idea about the lead pastor, that it's his decision, show me that church. Like, what church has a lead pastor that gets to decide when the church is over? Like, all right, can they kind of have a little bit more power and authority just because of their, long years of ministering to this church, because of the respect that people have for him? Maybe. But if it's him putting his thumb on the scale to say we should sell the church, there's something incredibly wrong at that church. But that just shows the megachurch mentality, that it's up to the leader. It's the visionary who gets to decide when the church ceases to exist. And what happens with, in his mind, what he's talking about, multi-million-dollar estates. No one person should be able to decide those things. That's something that the church, I'm a congregational guy, that's something that the church has to decide together on what they want to do, whether they want to continue as one body or, disband, join other bodies of Christ. Maybe that's not all at the same place, but they give the building to someone else. That's not a decision to be made by the lead pastor. But that's also his other point later is, just more focus on the leader.
I want to keep contributing. I don't know what to do. It feels like my life is over. Look, this is a real issue. And I think what I would say is having a mission beyond your work in pastoral ministry is critical, but it doesn't mean hanging on to your office, to your tenure longer than your shelf life. That's not what it means, right? You can probably do some things. Maybe you can coach other pastors. Maybe you can
grift real hard. Yeah. But again, it's just like, the lead pastor, but now this time it's not because he can't retire. It's just because he doesn't want to. Well, maybe the Lord hasn't told him to, like, hey, hang it up. And no one in the congregation is asking him to. Like, maybe he just is supposed to continue ministering, even though there's only 20 people at the church and it used to have, 120. Like, that could be a possibility, but again, it's all about that strategy of, it's the only way that we can, like, success is growth numerically. And the only way to get there is new leadership. It's all on the leader, which also, what a terrible way to live your life if you're a leader in that world. Like, that's so much pressure. Like, they need to go listen to some Theocast episodes and learn about, resting in Christ, because like that sounds like so much pressure to me, of it's up to you. And if you've got the vision for it and you work as hard as you can, then you can grow. And that means success. And that means faithfulness. That's a weird world, man. But I saw that YouTube recommended it to me. And I was like, wait, the shocking truth about dying churches and why they don't donate their buildings. I was like, okay, I know where this one's going. But let me know what you think about it. Let's hop into the chat and see what you guys are saying. Let's go up a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, our churches. I'm just saying, it's just like all the church plants are always starting with an R. All right, or Anchor. Oh, come on. Anchor Church. All right, I know someone who's going to be offended if he watches this. Do we need another Anchor? You guys aren't even by the ocean. Stop it. Like if you're in Maine, on the coast of Maine, you could have Anchor Church. But these guys, okay, who live in the middle of nowhere, just like Anchor. What? Why? Man, or inland, maybe in some places in Florida. No, I'm just kidding. He's gonna be some man. I think he is. Has he ever had a relationship with an old church? According to him, yes, and it was that one church. No. But this is the thing. These guys talk about what they don't know. And then they try to tell everyone what the truth is of this thing that they don't know. Like, he's always existed in the megachurch world. That's the only world this guy knows. But here he is to speak to the young churches. And I do get, like, he has talked to a lot of churches. He's very connected. So maybe he does have a little bit of insight into the daily life of a small church. But it's true. Like, it's so clear to me that he doesn't know. He doesn't know. Because again, if he did know, and he actually listened to the guys who were working at those churches, by the way, so many of the best preachers in the United States are preachers that you will never hear on a podcast. You'll never hear, from a stage at some conference. They're just really faithful guys serving 20 people, serving 40 people, having a church under 100. Like they're just following after Jesus and living their lives faithfully, trying to help people and preach the gospel. And you'll never know their names. And I'm sure that over the years, they'll probably get a lot of young people coming, knocking on their door saying, "Give me your church." Because Carey Nieuwhof. No. But like, this is the kind of ideology that's out there for a lot of these church planters, and just how, like, they're just like, give it to us. Why shouldn't you give it to us? Think about their investment. Like, think about them, what they've done. And you're here. And even some of these church planters who were like, we went the first 5 years without a building. As if like that's like 40 years in the wilderness, Like, it's just, what? You don't have to have a building. You might want a building. It might make life easier for you, but it doesn't mean that you have to have one in order to be a good and faithful and sound church. Buildings are convenient, but not all necessary in order to be faithfully and powerfully following Jesus. That's exactly what I said, but said a little bit better. Let me see. Do I have it? No, I don't. All right. We're going to end the stream in just a minute here. I got to check on numbers and stuff. I agree. 100%. What is he talking about? He's not making any sense. Well, I am taking him a little out of context, so I'll give him that. Like, I am choppy with it. But it's all basically the same stuff. Seems like he's criticizing what he doesn't understand. Kinda. Yeah. I think young people, like the really young people my age, like, we don't like tradition. My millennials, we don't like tradition. Gen Z seems to like it a lot more. Like, they want some of that stuff. They like high church. I chose a traditional church over mega churches. Yeah, I think a lot of people have. Sorry, Sims. I actually do know pastors who don't want to stop pastoring, or they built this church and they don't trust anyone with it. Yeah, I mean, like, they're out there, but just being like, this is, I don't know. I think if you talk to them, they would probably have reasons. From the outside, it might look that way, and maybe it is. Like, maybe I'm giving them too much of the benefit of the doubt. But I think if you talk with those people, they're convinced that it's something else. Dean, we need an olive stream after this one, man. If I see one more video labeled as shocking, I'm a flip out. Table over. Getting the whips. But did Jesus actually use a whip? When the Greek says table, was it a real table? Or was it a stool? We don't know. YouTube listens to this guy's video on mute, so it's not fair. Yeah. Reformed Baptist Church, anyone? Sorry I went too ghetto there. I'm going to flip out. That sounds more like I live in the Midwest. Yes, it does. Random action verb here, church. Basically. Felt great. Firmly agree with you, Dean. Keep it up and putting the focus on Christ. Appreciate that. I liked your video with you in the shower. If you don't know what that is, it sounds weird. That sounds super weird. But I did put a short out there. Maybe check the channel. Okay. I'll delete it later. Making it sound even weirder. Okay. Hey, Dean, I hope you're doing well. I'm doing pretty well, man. I hope you are too. I'm going to rewatch the stream. Sweet. It's weird. I'm non-denominational, but I really appreciate certain aspects of high church traditions. Yeah, I think there's a lot to learn there. All right, I got to end it. Got to go check on some kids, check on some children's. And I don't know what that voice was. But I'll be back at some point in the future where I will figure out overlays. And I will never make another mistake. I can't lie to you guys. It's going to be so many mistakes. So